There's a version of you that people don't play with. They don't test that version. They don't push boundaries just to see what happens. They don't leave that version on read and come back when it's convenient. That version exists. But it's not the one showing up right now. And the reason isn't complicated. It's just uncomfortable. You're too available. Not kind. Not supportive. Not generous. Available. Always reachable. Always responsive. Always adjusting. Always waiting. And that single trait quietly rewires how people see you. This isn't about cruelty. This isn't about bad people. This is about how the human brain assigns value. Anything that's always there stops feeling important. Not consciously. Automatically. The brain is efficient. It ranks. It filters. It decides what needs effort and what doesn't. When access to someone requires no effort, no timing, no consideration, the brain files them under low risk. Low risk becomes low attention. Low attention becomes low respect. No one announces this shift. It just happens. That's why people cancel last minute. That's why replies come late. That's why promises feel soft when they're made to you. Not because you're weak, but because the dynamic trained them to treat you that way. Every time you respond instantly, you teach people you're always waiting. Every time you rearrange your schedule, you teach them their time matters more. Every time you say yes while feeling resistance inside, you teach them your boundaries are flexible. And flexible boundaries invite pressure. The uncomfortable truth is this: being easy to access makes you easy to deprioritize. Think about how value actually works in real life. The thing you had to wait for, you protected. The thing you had to work for, you remembered. The thing that cost you something, you respected. The free thing, it fades. People are no different. When someone knows you're always available, they stop considering timing. They stop wondering if you're busy. They stop imagining your internal world. You become background, and background doesn't command attention. This is where most people get it wrong. They think respect comes from giving more, from being nicer, from being endlessly patient. So when they feel overlooked, they double down. They reply faster. They show up more. They lower themselves further. That only deepens the problem. Respect isn't created by effort alone. It's created by selectivity. People who are taken seriously don't give access equally, not because they think they're better, but because they actually value their time. They don't pretend to be busy. They are busy. Busy with things that matter to them. And that creates a signal. A quiet one. When they show up, it means something was displaced. Something else was delayed. That weight is felt immediately. The room shifts. Not because they demand attention, but because their presence isn't guaranteed. Scarcity does something to the human nervous system. It sharpens focus. It increases awareness. It turns passive interaction into active engagement. Abundance does the opposite. This is why over-available people feel exhausted. They're constantly present, but rarely prioritized. Constantly giving, but rarely chosen first. Constantly involved, but rarely central. That imbalance drains energy fast. There's also something deeper happening. When you're always available, you never get to be missed. And being missed is part of being valued. If someone never has to wonder where you are, never has to wait, never has to adjust to you, then your absence never registers. You could disappear for a moment, and nothing would shift. That realization hurts more than rejection. A lot of people feel this pain, but misinterpret it. They think the answer is becoming colder, harder, distant. That's not the answer. The answer is becoming occupied. Occupied by purpose. Occupied by focus. Occupied by standards. People with self-respect don't announce boundaries. They live inside them. They don't explain why they're unavailable. They just are. And that's the difference between power and performance. Performance tries to look busy. Power actually is. Another reason constant availability destroys respect is that it removes consequence. When there's no cost to crossing your boundaries, boundaries don't exist. When there's no cost to canceling, canceling becomes casual. When there's no cost to ignoring, ignoring feels harmless. People respond to consequences, not words. This doesn't mean punishment. It means natural adjustment. If someone knows you'll always be there no matter how they treat you, their behavior stabilizes at the lowest required effort. Why wouldn't it? Human beings conserve energy by default. That's why standards matter. Not spoken standards. Lived ones. Standards for how your time is used. Standards for who gets access. Standards for what deserves your attention. Most people never define these. They just react. Message comes in. They answer. Request appears. They comply. Invitation shows up. They accept. No filter. No pause. No decision. After years of this, the identity becomes tied to availability. Being needed feels like value. Being busy feels like importance. So the idea of stepping back feels dangerous. What if people leave? What if they forget? What if silence means abandonment? That fear keeps people trapped. But here's the truth most don't want to face. If someone disappears the moment you stop being convenient, they were never connected to you. They were connected to access. And access is not relationship. When you remove unlimited availability, two things happen. Some people push back. They test. They guilt. They question the change. That reaction isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof the old dynamic benefited them. Other people adjust. They become more intentional. They respect timing. They show up differently. Those are the people worth keeping. The transition feels lonely at first. The phone is quieter. The invitations slow down. The validation drops. That silence feels like loss. But it's not loss. It's space. And space is where identity forms. In that space, something shifts internally. You stop scanning for responses. You stop measuring worth by attention. You stop performing presence. Your nervous system calms. Decisions slow down. Speech becomes deliberate. Movements become precise. People notice before you say anything. Not because you demand respect, but because you're no longer leaking energy. The most respected people in any environment aren't the loudest. They're the least reactive. They don't rush to explain. They don't rush to justify. They don't rush to prove. They allow misunderstanding to exist without correcting it immediately. That alone changes how people behave around them. Urgency signals need. Calm signals control. Another hard truth. When you're always available, you're often avoiding your own life. Availability becomes a distraction from building something meaningful. It's easier to respond to others than to sit with your own direction. When someone pulls back and starts focusing inward, discomfort rises. Questions surface. Uncertainty appears. That's where most people return to availability, to escape themselves. But the version of you that people take seriously lives on the other side of that discomfort. That version has opinions, limits, edges. Edges don't repel the right people, they attract them. Because edges make you real. When you stop smoothing yourself out for everyone, you become defined. Defined things are easier to respect. This doesn't require cutting people off. It requires choosing differently. Answer when you actually want to. Show up when it aligns. Say no without explanation. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. Quietly. The quiet shift is the most powerful one. No announcements. No declarations. Just changed behavior. Let the world adjust. Some won't. That's fine. The ones who matter will. And here's the final part most people don't expect. When you start valuing your time, you start valuing yourself. Not in an emotional way, in a structural way. Your life gains shape, and people treat structured things with care. Always have. Always will. The version of you that gets taken seriously doesn't beg for space. They occupy it. They don't chase attention. They direct it. They don't wait to be chosen. They decide where they show up. And once that decision is made internally, the external world follows. Slowly. Quietly. Inevitably. Stop being easy to reach. Be worth the effort.